Welcome back to This Week in Auburn Sports. I'm Plainsman sports editor Eric Wallace, joined by Plainsman assistant sports editor David McKinney. Got a full show for you this week, but we'll start out on the hardwood, where the Auburn basketball team is about to enter a tough stretch of games, led off by, of course, the hardest of all, number one Kentucky in Lexington. David, that's just going to be that's a tall test for any team, but for a team as shorthanded as Auburn is, it's near impossible.
Well, you mentioned tall test, literally a tall test, because guys like Willie Cauley-Stein, who are just monsters in the paint. He's over 7 feet, and really Auburn just doesn't have anybody that can stick with those guys, honestly.
Yeah, and him and Karl Anthony Towns, that's two twin towers. They're both 4 inches taller than Auburn's tallest guy in the starting lineup right now, and so that's just, it is literally a tall test that I think we heard Bruce Pearl even say that they don't know that they can overcome.
Especially playing in Rupp Arena with a team that's 26-0 and really just been controlling every game they've been in. So I think if Auburn did pull off the upset, I think it would be the biggest upset in the history of college basketball. It'd
be pretty close. I mean they're number one. Everybody expects them to go all the way. Auburn is struggling. We saw them really just lay down a dud in front of a great crowd on Tuesday night against Alabama. Which was really surprising considering the momentum you thought they would carry from the Georgia game. But we'll see. They move on. They'll play LSU after Kentucky and then Texas A&M. Those are 3 teams that are projected to make the NCAA tournament. So we could be looking at more tough times for the Auburn basketball team in Bruce Pearl's first season as head coach. Moving on to other sports, baseball's firing up. They not gotten off to the best start in year 2 of Sonny Galloway's season. There's been a lot of turnover, as we discussed in a previous edition. They lost to South Alabama. They dropped a game against Binghamton in the first opening series. But we'll see if they're able to improve moving forward, just as guys get settled in to their place on the lineup.
Yeah, you mentioned there is a lot of turnaround, and it could be just kind of those first of the season jitters. But like we mentioned in the earlier edition, they are projected to finish pretty low in the SEC. But we'll see if they can get a turnaround, but definitely not the start they were looking for.
But looking at a team that has had a start that they were looking for, Auburn softball is currently off to a 13-0 start to the season, David. And I know you've been at a lot of games this year. They're mashing the ball. Like they're hitting home runs. Emily Carasone, someone who's not really a power hitter, she's hitting for power. It's impressive to watch. They're the best team on campus right now. Yeah,
girls like Carasone and Brandy Malero and Casey Cooper. Malero and Casey Cooper were actually All-Americans last year.
Yeah,
they're dropping bombs out there, man. They're putting it over the fence. They can play small ball too. They can get RBIs when they need them. It's fun to watch because they're lighting up that new scoreboard at Jane Moore Field.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing an Auburn softball fans gotta like is that their pitching is coming along too. Marcy Harper, Lexi Davis. It's better than last year, and that was what held them back in previous seasons. Swimming and diving is competing in the SEC championships today. They'll wrap up, I believe, on Saturday, the last of their competition. As of the time that we're filming this, the men are currently ranked 3rd in the SEC at the championships, while the women are 6th. It's hard to say exactly what the team will take out of that. There have been a number of personal records set, PR best times. But it's a cool event having it in Auburn and just in an area where Auburn is dominated in that sport.
I think it's great for the program to be able to host something like that. It brings exposure to a sport that really is a historical program at Auburn. It's lesser known around campus, but so I think that's good for them.
Yeah, and moving on to another smaller sport, gymnastics is heading up to Missouri today to take on the Tigers. They're coming off the best performance in school history. They set a program best score against LSU when they recorded a 197.300. I don't know how you say gymnastics scores, but that's what it was. Unfortunately, they still came up short. They lost by .050 to the top 5 Tigers from LSU. But the gymnastics team's the job that Jeff Grave has done. We've talked about it before. They're better than they've ever been in the program's history, and they just continue to impress with their top 10 rankings, and they're steadily moving up those rankings. They'll also take on the Georgia Bulldogs next Friday, so be sure to look out for that. That'll be in Auburn. Finally, moving on to football news, the NFL Combine is starting up in Indianapolis. A number of Auburn athletes like Nick Marshall, Cameron Artis-Payne, Gabe Wright, other
Reese
people.
Dismukes.
Reese Dismukes. They're all up there working out trying to make their name, heard in front of NFL scouts. Marshall, who, it's documented that he made the swap to defensive back, is actually still throwing for scouts up there. They're interested in him as maybe an emergency-style quarterback, a guy that they could bring in if there was a lot of injuries. So I think that could help him find a role on a team someday.
Yeah, it's kind of, with the combine, it's kind of hit or miss. It's kind of hard to, it helps gauge what kind of athletes they are, but really it's all about what's on the field.
Yeah.
And your performance on the field. A guy like Sammy Coates, he's going to have an incredible combine. Mm-hmm. He's a freak athlete. Reese Smukes, for one, for a center, your 40 times, stuff like that, it's not that big of a deal. So really it comes down to what's on the field, but it's definitely good for those guys to get in front of NFL scouts.
And for some of the athletes, like Coates that you mentioned, they do have some flaws that a lot of scouts have noted, like his hands. So this is an opportunity to get in front of scouts and show, okay, look, I do have hands if you're Sammy Coates, or if you are Nick Marshall, hey, I can throw it. So it's a good opportunity for Auburn athletes this week. But that's all we got for this week. Be sure to pick up the print edition of the Auburn Plainsman if you're around town. Stay tuned to our website. We'll have updates from all Auburn athletics events this weekend. You can get all your scores, recaps, and any news or notes that are happening during the weekend. So until next time, this has been This Week in Auburn Sports. Chris.